Trading and investing of any kind carries risk. Everything discussed here is for entertainment purposes only and not to be taken as financial advice because I don't give advice. Like, subscribe, notification bell, tell people, share it. First up, before we get into the market, I wanted to say that I've been out and about. I've been gone. The thesis is the same all around though. But before we get into that, I'd mentioned previously that there was the creation of a room. It's not a free room. You have to pay to be there, which is, there's a lot of education that we're trying to put together to bring people up to speed on a lot of things. Been pretty busy with that, which has been amazing. So far, the experience is amazing. The people are amazing. It's been really, really good so far. So if you want to come check it out, I'll put a link in the description. Some things we're working on right now. I'm testing an AI bot that to do auto trades. And you might ask yourself, if you're teaching people to trade, why would you be testing an AI bot? Because I'm not greedy. If I can find an AI bot that can help people trade and I can find success with it, I want to share it with everybody, or at least the people in the room, right? If you want to try to figure out a way to make money trading and you think this thing can do it for you, I'm going to try to put some results together, then I'm happy to share it with people. Even at the risk of you leaving and going to only use this bot to auto trade, that's fine. Some other things we're putting together are partnerships with companies that are doing funded accounts. We're trying to figure all of these things out to try to help people get started. We don't want anybody to be reliant on us. Everything we're doing is for the people in the room. It has nothing to do with, you needing me or needing us as a crutch to survive. We want people in that room that want to be there, and hopefully now, soon, or over time as you learn, the amount of the room won't even matter. You'll be there because you're successful and you want to stay there because you're successful and because the community keeps you there. And the ultimate goal is to get everybody that's there now up to speed, to be able to help anybody that comes in, to be a solid community to help each other out. So now that that's all done, first things first, we popped through this trend line. Yeah, this trend line that we talked about forever. So we pulled back, got this. Now we're on 4-hour candles, so we could dip down a bit. So, yeah, we got through the trend line, came back. We made this, little M pattern to pull through. I mean, it was such a nice move, huh? Came back down, pushed up. So I think the last video was where this was kind of setting up and, some people were kind of looking at it as a head and shoulders. And it just wasn't, we were outside of the realm really of a head and shoulders, and if that would have worked out as a pull, I wouldn't have necessarily considered it a head and shoulders. I just really wouldn't have. I would have considered it something else. So, and it didn't work out, right? I mean, I'd mentioned that I was a little on the bearish side still because I do think a lot of this buying is irrational, which is good, right? That means there's a lot of greed in the market. And so with greed in the market comes, the market goes up. And so what happens after that market goes up? Well, eventually, as the story tends to go, get a lot of greed in the market. It'll push until it just can't push anymore. And then what happens after that? That's to be determined, right? So we had all this accumulation down here. We had these push, some selling, That's just how these pushes go, right? So we get through the trend line. We pulled back, found the buyers we needed as we talk about, right? We pushed through, created this M, pulled back. And I mean, honestly, if we wow, could I talk any faster? If we retraced that, we didn't quite get to 61.8 on it, but if we were to measure it from this wick, we probably did. Yeah, so I'm going to assume that's kind of where the measurement's from. So, basically a bit of a failure maybe on that pattern, right? We get to that 61.8. I mean, I'm sure we could measure it from other places too, and probably, yeah. And I'm sure if I were to go do additional measurements on these harmonic patterns, we could figure out where these wicks come from and stuff. But you want to learn what I'm talking about? Yep, shameless self-plug again. We're teaching it now. So, all right. We get through this guy here. We push up. Now we're at this trend line here. Where did this trend line come from? Well, Fancy, you should ask such a great question. It's the same trend line we drew from up here, but we drew it across this big gnarly wick we got on that, what was it, the FOMC report back in December, I think is what calls that. So we drew it across there. What do we get? Well, wouldn't you just know it? We pushed through it today, and we're trying to hold. We're trying to stay. I think we pulled a little bit back below it, but really these are just areas, right? So there's no line in the sand per se. It's just an area. So we're trying to hold this little area here for this trend line. Is it just that trend line? Well, no, there's always other reasons, right? There's always a reason for support and resistance. So here we are. I mean, there's always reasons for support and resistance. So there we are. So what are the possibilities? Let's look at the possibilities of what we have setting up here. Well, if we were to go to the upside, we did complete, before I eat my words here, I'm pretty certain we completed this Gartley today. Oh yeah, we did, because we talked about it in the room. We called it out. So here we go. Where did we complete it? We completed it at 78.6. Beautiful. So we completed it. Where did we complete it? Right at the trend line. Very nice. So that bigger Gartley we completed. Very nice, very nice, very nice. So what are the possibilities now? Well, a Gartley can turn into crab, right? So we could push up to that 1618, which is way up here at this trend line, which would be a lot. Now, never say never, right? As we've seen, never say never. You can get through these trend lines. We can just keep on trucking. Keep bringing out the news that, oh, the economy's not doing that bad. Those layoffs, they're just layoffs, right? They're just, we're just not in a growth period. So, you keep having those kinds of things thrown out there. Maybe we could. We'll see. So you've got that potential opportunity. You've got some other pieces here. And the great thing about this is, one of the things I'm really loving about the people that we've got in this room is the fact that there are patterns that people are putting out there that, I didn't draw. I didn't even think about. I love it. It's just the best. I love having a community like this. So what are we looking at here? So we're looking at, that's a butterfly. I mean, if that butterfly works out, that's insane, right? I mean, if it were to take us a long time to get there, we'd be out to, looks like March to be able to get all the way up there. And of course, we're looking at SPY. We're looking up here in the 440, 448, 450 range. So what are the other options we have for the opposite direction? Well, let's take a look. We've got, funny enough, we've got a Gartley in the other direction. All right. We hit that 78.6, so it would be somewhere around this area here. Now we could go try to measure these out and see how accurate we are on them. I'm going to assume that's going to be a little further out. Yeah, so we'd be looking at around March 6th for that. We'd be looking somewhere out here, to be spot on. So we could definitely land anywhere around here. So that's kind of what we're looking at. And if you notice, we're not, it's not saying that we can't or we won't. And a lot of times when we come back down, it can be a bit faster than what it took to get us to go up. But as these things come down, we're not going to get from 407 to 350 in an afternoon unless somebody's, sending nukes into the sky, right? So these take time. So we measure these things out harmonically. So this would take us, if this worked out over time, take us down around 360 back to this lower trend line of this broadening, but I mean, I wouldn't be completely upset if we touched the top side of this broadening pattern. I really wouldn't. So it's a long way. It definitely is to get up there, but hey, we've been there before. We could try to complete these patterns. So this Gartley to the downside, what could help us get there? Well, I'm glad you asked, Internet. Let's check it out. We've got, and I'm going to measure these, and let's see if I get it wrong. Somebody just tell me about it in the comments and I'll try to correct it. So we have, let's start here. Let's measure here. to here. What do we got on this retrace? Well, that's fun. And we got this potential of a pull to around in here. Right, got that sharp pattern. Get us down around 886, down to 113, right? So really just between this area and then down here roughly to this, you know, kind of support resistance area here. So we'll just kind of throw it here. Now we could figure out for certain, not for certain, that's not true. We could figure out with a stronger possibility where we could go. Should we do that? Let's do that. Let's measure here. And we have this 1618 down to here. Well, that's fun. And then let's take this to here. Yep, so that's an interesting range there, huh? Yeah, so I'm going to say if we were to do that, we would probably try to call that an 886. We could go a little bit further. It is possible. Let's look at the other one, see what we got. Got this one here. Let's do the same. Okay, that's basically 1-to-1. Let's pull it down. Oh yeah, so like we might, that gets us down to here. So what do we get with shark patterns? Well, we get a shark pattern, we get a reversal, and from those reversals, you know, there's a lot of different things that can come out of them, right? But let's just say that we want to try to get that next 5-0 pattern. So let's measure this one first. What's a 50% retrace? We'd be looking to try to push back through this trend line. Ooh, that might be fun. Right, so we get this push back through this trend line. If we could get it, fantastic. And then we would figure out roughly around that 50% area what we were going to do. Not always 50%, but you know. Then we got this other one here. If we were to look at it, push us back up here to this trend line, right? So that might be fun, right? It would get us, and we're just talking possibility here, right? We get a nice 113 pull here. Now that gets way more fun because now that 50% is just a pop through and a back down. See the opportunities and the options we could line up here? There's lots of possibilities. That's why I do this. So you go look at the market, you see what it gives you, you see what you've got available to yourself, and then you trade what you see, you trade what you get. Now, if you want to start looking for swings and things like that, it's a whole other animal. You want to start looking at bigger picture. So that's where my head is right now. That's what I'm looking at. While I do think that, like I said, there's irrational buying, doesn't mean we won't keep going up, right? Irrational buying can go on for a long time. So we'll start to look and see, you know, when the tone and the news starts to change, we'll see if that irrational buying might turn a little bit more into, you know, to get rid of all this greed in the market. But who knows? Could go on for a long time. Anyway, that's where my head is. Hope everybody's doing well. I look forward to seeing everybody in the future or next time or whenever I see you. And yeah, have a good night. See you next time.